Hello there everyone, it's Carol from the Crafty Emporium. So as promised, I said that I would bring you a tutorial on how to make this Ephemera Traveller's Pack. But as has already been stated in the previous video, it can be used as a rack, as a gift for yourself, and if you use it for yourself, it makes a nice sort of storage area to keep some of your bits of ephemera in. If, unlike me, you've got tons and tons of stuff and then it's obviously not big enough, but it's a good way of storing all your bits and pieces in. Or you could make several. Keep your guest checks in one, keep your tags in another, keep your repair tags in another one. So you could have a little library of them on your shelves. Anyway, just a little thought. So as discussed previously, I will be using the new digital kit that I made called the Language of Flowers. So I will be using that to decorate up the version in this tutorial. And thank you so much for the responses that I've got so far for both this pack, the journal that I showed, and the new digital kit. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. Just put that to one side for a moment. Okay, let's talk file folders. Now, in the UK, we actually don't readily get this file folder, this creamy yellowy coloured one. We get all sorts of other colours, but we don't get this creamy yellow one. Excuse me. And the other thing, of course, is that these are letter size, whereas in the UK we use A4 paper, so our file folders tend to be a little bit bigger. Now, I do sell these in my pop-up shop on my Facebook group, but the pop-up shop is not going to be until the end. Next one is not going to be until the end of September now. Right. The other thing is that they are also different sizes. So I don't know whether you can see, but if I remove this one, okay, and then line them up, they're actually different sizes. Okay, so this one, you see this bit here is much lower than this one on here. The tab itself is actually higher on this one than it is on this one. So just watch out for that. So you may need to adjust the measurements that I'm going to give you just ever so slightly. But it's easy enough to sort of adjust. Now, the size of the folder that I'm going to be using is this one here. If I get my ruler the right way around, and this one measures, get my ruler straight, just under 11 3/4 inches long, and to the top edge here it measures to this first opening here, it measures 8 3/4 inches, and to the top of the tab it measures 9 1/2 inches. All right, so that's the size of the file folder that I'm going to be using. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out about file folders is that when they come with the tabs, they come with them in different positions, and the ones that I sell have got 3 different tab spacings. So you've got one at the left hand side, you end up with one in the middle, and you end up with one like this, which is one on the right hand side. Now, ideally you want one with the tab on the left hand side because that forms the closure. Okay, if you only got this one where the tab is on the right hand side, you think to yourself, oh, I'll fold it over, turn it over. But unfortunately you can't do that because you want this on the outside and this on the back side. So the best way to do it is to actually open up the folder and close it the opposite way. So you need to just redo that fold. And if we have a look now, it's now on the left hand side and the shorter side of it is on the front. Okay, so it's now all in the right position. Now on mine that I sell, it does have this wording on the back, but it doesn't matter because we're going to be covering it over anyway, so that doesn't matter. Oh, that's my bead. Don't lose you. Let's make the first bit. So here on the edge, if I give you a close-up again, can you see it's got these ridges here? Okay, so that's to allow for the fact that if you fill this file full of papers, then you can fold it along these ridges to actually give it a little bit of a base that your papers will now sit in. We're going to use the very last one here to fold it, because this will then form the spine. Just make sure that it's nice and square by making sure that your edges match up here. So when we open it up now, we've now got this flat base here, so that you're forming almost like a little book. Okay, and we're going to open it back up. Now from that new fold that we've made, we're going to measure 6 3/4 inches and trim off the excess. So I want to spin it back round and put this line on my 6 3/4 inch mark on my paper trimmer. Because I want to trim this end piece off. Just make sure I've got it at 6 3/4. Okay, keep this piece. We're going to need it later. Right, let's keep that little bit. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is from this original fold here and out towards the tab, we're going to score at 7 inches and 7 3/4 inches. So you need to fold the folder so that it's on that crease and butt that up into the corner and to the top, and then just lift that flap up slightly. If you lift it up all the way, it starts to move it a little bit, so just lift it up slightly so that you can ensure that it's butt up against this edge, and just score. So hopefully you can see that 7 inches, and we're doing it all the way down the full length of the folder, and 7 3/4 inches. And I went up and down it several times because this card is a little bit thicker, so I just want to make sure that I've done it right the way through. And then you're going to fold and burnish those folds. So it now makes that tab piece is going to sit on the front, and we've got almost like a little mini box. So from this top edge here, we're going to measure down 7 inches and we're going to score right the way across. Now, as you can imagine, that's not going to sit in my score pal as it is, so I'm actually going to fold it and then put it into my score pal. And then score at 7 inches. Now, as I've already said, this is quite relatively thick card, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it over, and I'm going to do the same on the other side, so that I'm making sure that I've got that crease right the way across. We're going to open it back out, and then we're going to fold this up, and you're going to burnish. So we've now formed a pocket for here and a pocket for here, but we've got this little bit of excess from this point here across. That's excess, so we actually need to cut that little piece out. So I'm going to open it back up again, and then I'm going to cut on the left hand side of the crease that I've just made down to that 7-inch fold mark here, and then I'm going to cut it across. Okay, now you can do that on your paper trimmer if you wish, but I'm just going to do it with a pair of scissors if I can get into that corner. Come on, play nicely for mummy. There we go. And again, keep that little piece, that's going to come in handy for later as well. So we now fold that bit up, and these creases here are going to go in the opposite direction to what you've actually originally taught them to do. And then we're going to fold that in front, and it will look like this. And that's the basis of your file folder storage pack. Okay, now there are a couple of options that I'm going to come to in a minute about this center point here, but first of all I want to talk to you about these little pieces that we've just cut off. I've lost my other bit. There we go. Because we need these now, because we're going to make hinges for the ends of these two pockets that we've made here. Now this one is already automatically scored and folds, so I'm just going to trim off this excess here, and I'm just going to use my scissors to just cut it off. Again, you can use your paper trimmer if you wish. Now that bit is rubbish, we don't need that. And it should be, God willing, the same height as the original pocket. Okay, so it's now the same height. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off, I'm going to taper this top corner here, and I'm cutting it from the open side up to that folded corner. So it now looks like that. Now from this piece here, if I open this up, this isn't as wide as this, but it doesn't matter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it to the same height. So I'm just going to cut straight across there and straight across there. And then I'm going to fold this piece in half. Now you can score it if you want. I'm too lazy. And burnish it. And then again I'm going to taper it off, so from the open ends here up into that corner, and then taper it off. So I've now got two tapered pieces. Now the reason why it doesn't matter about the fact that one's wider than the other is they're going to act as little hinges here on the side of your pockets. Okay, and it's just to allow your pocket to have that little bit of space between its back and the front facing part of the pocket. If you don't do the hinges and you end up putting glue on the edge of the pocket here, and then stick it down, you end up with a really flat pocket, and it's quite difficult to get something in. So putting the hinges on actually allows for that little bit of extra space and little bit of give between the back and the pocket itself. Okay, so that's why we're putting these hinges on. Now I'm going to be using my Tombow glue, but you can use PVA glue. And we're going to put the folded edge on the top of this point on the outside edge of this pocket here, so that will sit like that. So you need to make sure that you're putting glue on the right side and put it there. And I want to make sure that I've got that corner has got some glue on, but we don't want to put too much on because it'll just ooze out otherwise. Okay, and then I can flip it over and stick that up there. And excuse the state of my nails, I've been doing a lot of inking the past couple of days. And you know what it's like, you can never get the blooming thing out. So you end up with it all over your fingers, all down your nails. It's not elegant, it's not a good look. And then that will sit on there. So that folded edge here is just up to the butt up to the edge of the pocket itself. Now at this point, what I would suggest is that you actually ink all of the edges, every single edge you can see, because it just makes life a little bit easier than inking up afterwards. But I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to carry on. Now what we would normally do is we would normally put we would normally put glue on these two flaps that we've just done, the two hinges, and we would just glue down to the back of the pocket, but then you've got this flappy bit here in the middle. Now what I did previously was I placed glue in between those folds, so that spine area there, and I would actually make contact with the back piece first. Okay, so you end up with glue here, here and here, so that when you fold it over you make sure that that's in contact first, and then you push that side down, and then you push that side down. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like when you've done that. So when you open it up, this is now glued to this back piece, and the hinges are now glued on either side. Alright, but when you close it up, I'm hoping you can see this if I do your close up. Can you see the pockets inside are billowing? Don't worry about that, alright, because we're going to fill it with stuff and they're going to billow anyway. Now if you don't like the billowing and you want a slightly flatter pocket, do you know there are times I wish I could speak properly. There is something that you can do, and that is to cut down the centre of the pocket bit. So down that centre spine, just do it that way. And then taper down into the corner, and taper down into the corner there, and I'll show you a close-up so you can see what I mean. So I've cut down the centre of that spine area, and then I've just cut it off at a slight angle and a slight angle on that side, so I've now got two little flappy triangles. Alright, I can then fold that edge back and fold that edge back, and I've now got hinges on these sides of the pockets. So it's got a hinge here and a hinge here, that when I come to glue them down, they're both hinged. And the same for that side, they're both hinged. and then I can pull those little triangles back, and then I can just cut straight across to cut those off. So there are two options. One is to just glue the spine itself down, which also helps to give the spine some extra support, but your pockets billow. But as I say, that doesn't matter because we're going to be billowing it out with all sorts of products anyway. Or you can cut down that spine and fold those in to make hinges on those sides. So I'll glue this one down. And I'll glue that one down. And then fold that up. And I don't like to press too hard at this point because I don't want the glue oozing out on each side. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. And then I'm going to fold those in and over. Got glue on my fingers now. And then I'm just going to press lightly with my bone folder to make sure that I've got a nice contact. So my pockets still billow a little bit, but not as much as doing it this way. So they still billow a bit. Okay, so that's the two different versions of using the file folder. Okay, I'll come back in a second video to show you how to start decorating, and I'll talk to you about the magnets that I used. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.